Howdy, and welcome to Lesson 3 on Principle versus Expediency. In Lesson 3, we're going to explore, are you character driven or emotion driven? Tony Robbins said, it is your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. To help you apply principal behavior in your life, would you give me permission to ask you some questions? If the weather is good, do you feel good? If it isn't, does it affect your attitude and your performance? When people treat you well, do you feel well? And when people don't, do you become defensive or protective? Do your emotions change based on the behavior of others? Are your feelings driven by circumstances, by your environment, by any kind of external conditions? Do you react to changes and challenges by saying things like, it's in my DNA? I inherited from my past generations. It's my parents' fault. I was raised that way. It's my boss's fault. It's my spouse's fault. It's the younger generation's fault. It's the government's fault. It's the economy. It's our society. In other words, do you believe someone or something in your environment is responsible for your current situation, personal tendencies, and or character? Do you feel increasingly victimized and out of control, not in charge of your life or your destiny? Stephen Covey said, anytime you think the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem. If you're not sure how to answer those previous questions, your words may provide a hint. Habitual language can be a strong indicator of whether you're reacting to your external situation and therefore allowing your feelings and emotions to dominate your response and absolve you of the responsibility. Let's take a look at the following chart and consider how often you use reactive language versus more responsible language. Reactive language. That's just the way I am. The underlying belief is there is nothing I can do about it. However, the responsible alternative is let me look into my options. The other, here's another reactive language. I can't do that. The underlying belief, something outside me is limiting me. A responsive alternative is I'm choosing not to do that. Here's another reactive language. I just don't have time. The underlying belief, something outside of me is controlling my priorities. However, the responsible alternative is let me see where I can schedule time into my calendar. Here's another reactive language. My boss makes me so mad. Underlying belief: my emotional life is governed by someone outside of my control. However, the responsible alternative is I need to ask my boss for some time to talk through this thing that frustrates me. And here's another reactive language: I have to do it. The underlying belief is circumstances or other people are forcing me to do it. However, the responsible alternative is I am choosing to do it. The comments in the first column are evidence of a transfer of responsibility. Beneath these reactive comments is an expectation that someone or something else is responsible for my feelings and emotions. And as we give up our personal responsibility for our emotions, we empower who? Other people, conditions, and circumstances to control us. So we end up, we blame and we use accusing attitudes and reactive emotion driven language, and we accumulate increasingly feelings of victimization for our own stagnant situation. The result is expedient decisions, which wreak havoc in our lives mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So, how do you react to changes and challenges? When they occur, do you blame someone or something that is out of your control? One thing I've learned about life is that your emotions, if left unchecked, will always override your intellect. There was a time when I regularly met with some high school boys when I was teaching Sunday school at church. And I would say to them, when you get in the car with your buddies on Friday night, you already know how the night's going to turn out. They knew what type of activities their friends might be involved in, and they knew the choices they would be faced with. So I wanted them to understand that they needed to decide whether they were going out on the town Friday night before they were asked. And if they choose to get in the car, they needed to decide beforehand how they were going to respond to the emotional situations that would occur that night. This is why I have said principled behavior leads to better decisions. As the story goes, if a frog is placed in boiling water, it will jump out. But if it is placed in cool and pleasant water that is gradually heated, it will not perceive the danger until it is too late and will be cooked to death. This principle applies if we make decisions based on what we feel, what feels good at the moment, and simply go with the flow. We'll often wind up in hot water. But if we make principled decisions based on what we know to be true and right, we'll experience less self made trouble and greater success. When you evaluate your behavior based on these two categories, you'll discover that virtually every action or decision you make can be described as either principled or expedient. And again, this is why I have said your unchecked emotions will always override your intellect. People consistently say one thing but do something different. Choose choose to behave based on their emotions in an expedient way rather than on their character in a principled way. People who behave expedient do what's easiest and what makes them the happiest in the short run. They find it more convenient to react to the urgent things in life. They are often guided by emotion and choose to make what type? Popular decisions that are rooted in unhealthy fears. At the same time, they worry about protecting their rights. Rash, emotional decisions lead to poor outcomes. Those who are principled think about what is right in the long run and are self disciplined to do it, even though it might not be the easiest, quickest, or most enjoyable thing to do. They are proactive and focus on what is important. And they initiate action by filling their calendar with their priorities proactively rather than being acted upon by others' requests reactively. Rather than jumping to what looks like a greener pasture on the other side, they first invest in fertilizing the pasture that they are in currently. They also choose to trust the process, which leads to principled decisions that are rooted in faith. At the same time, they accept their responsibilities, which accompany their rights. When faced with situations that might test our character, we can use the following information by John Maxwell, who help us reach principle character driven decisions. Here's what in this chart would say. Character driven people do right, then feel good. Emotion driven people, they want to feel good, then do right. Character driven people are commitment driven. Emotion driven people are convenience driven. Character driven people make principled decisions. Emotion driven people make popular decisions. Character driven people, their action controls their attitude. However, emotion driven people, their attitude controls their action. Character driven people believe it, then see it. Emotion driven people, they want to see it, then believe it. Character driven people create momentum. Emotion driven people wait for momentum. Character driven people ask, what are my responsibilities? Emotion driven people ask, what are my rights or freedoms? Remember, character driven people are willing to do things emotion driven people will not even bother to do. Character driven people enjoy long term success, while emotion driven people usually wind up on the road to failure. In Proverbs 4, chapter 4, verses 20 through 27, when it says, "My son, be attentive to my words, incline your ear to my sayings. Let them not escape from your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and healing to all their flesh. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for if it flow the spring of life. Put away from your crooked speech and put devious talk far from you. Let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Ponder the path of your feet, then all your ways will be sure. And do not swerve to the right or left. Turn your turn your foot away from evil." Leaders who last do not merely react to their culture. They base their leadership on timeless and universal principles. They remain relevant because they marry culture, context to timeless truths. Proverbs 4 encourage leaders to become principle centered. Verses 20 through 27 teach us that God's principles give us three crucial tools. They are a guide, they help us stay on the right path. They are a guard, they keep our hearts and bodies protected. They are a gauge, they enable us to evaluate where we are. These principles built on character direct our decisions and correct our lifestyles. Every leader ought to consume God's word and then put the truths he or she discovers in the form of principles that can guide, guard, and gauge his or her life. So, in lesson 3, we explored, are you character driven or emotion driven? Have you experienced the boiling frog effect in your own life? Are you more character driven or emotion driven in your decision making? Will you consider reviewing the character driven versus emotion driven chart before you make your next big decision? Well, in lesson 3, write down 1, 2, or 3 action items that you will take today. And this concludes lesson 3 on principle versus expediency.